sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, early in the morning.
Good day, my friends. Walter here, and I often, in some of my stories, refer to the Navy, the time we were in the Navy. I'm proud to have served my time in the Navy, and I do it all again. 95% of the time we were professional sailors, squared away, did our military duties, and operated the ship in a military way, or squared away way, I should say. When a thing in the world wrong with how we conducted our military duties, and often when we rarely did get some time for recreation, was a time when we would let loose and get out and do our drinking and partying and relaxing, just having a good time. And as a result of most of the pictures I show you in my album are times such as that when we were just relaxing and taking it easy. But don't think for 1 minute we didn't do our job in a professional manner. And each and every one of these men you see in my album are squared away sailors 95% of the time. Good day, viewers. Walter here. I think today I'll share one of my Navy stories with you. I was just sitting here going through Google Photos, and I got some albums here. Let's kind of thumb through the Navy album here, some old Navy pictures of mine, while I tell you this story about some of my electrician Dennis. Basically, the story revolves around his drinking problems and stuff, but when Dennis was sober, he was a nice, easygoing guy to get along with. But if he didn't like you, he was the type of person who would let you know in a hurry he didn't like you. But I'll thumb through these pictures here as I tell you. That's my company in boot camp where I graduated from boot camp. That man's name was Otis. He was a tough character, and we won Color Company, which was the best company in our division. Right here where you see my cursor circling around, that's old Walter. Put me in the back row because I was taller than the other men. But on with the story about Dennis. Anyway, today's story is about electrician Dennis, or I remember Dennis. It's a Navy story. As I said, Dennis had a drinking problem, and we traveled the Caribbean a lot on the USS Chicana. And I remember several instances. I don't remember them all. But Dennis was like a second-class petty officer at the time. I was only a third class when I first met him. And I became second class later on in my career, in my time in the Navy. But Dennis had a habit of getting in trouble. He didn't know how to stay out of trouble, I guess. I'll give you a few examples. Like I said, I don't remember them all. On the USS Chicana, we had what they call an open galley. That means you can go in the cooking area. We had a refrigerator that you could access sandwich, munch meat and stuff, and make a sandwich, or fix yourself something to eat when you come in at night. After drinking beer and stuff, a lot of us would go up there and fix ourselves something to eat in the middle of the night. And they still had the cooks would come on duty and cook the regular meals, but we had the advantage of having that open galley. Well, I came in from out one night with some of the friends, and Dennis was standing in that galley area peeling a potato, cutting him up some little French fries. He gonna cook him some French fries. One of the guys with me just playfully reached up and snatched one of his raw French fries that he had carved up, and he's peeling with a sharp pointed Perry knife about 5 or 6 inches long. And he just, he was just joking. He didn't mean nothing. He reached and grabbed one of them fries and said, "Thanks, Dennis," and turned to walk away. Well, Dennis promptly stabs him right in the cheek of his rear end with that knife. And it, from what I could see, it must have went in an inch or more into his butt. And he was squirting. I must have hit a vein because blood was just squirting out of him. He was wearing his white uniform, and pretty soon it was covered with red. He had to take him to the sick bay and get the corpsman to stitch him up. Well, naturally, one of us, I don't remember if it was me or somebody else, didn't have no choice. We had to put Dennis on report. And on report means I'm going to tell on you. You can't cover up something like that. And you'll wind up going to a captain's mast or whatever when you do something serious enough to be punished for. Well, anyway, you got put on report. Captain didn't take to that behavior one little bit and busted him down to third-class petty officer and fined him, I don't know, $400 or $500 or something like that. Don't quote me on the dollars. I know he was fined for some reason. After that, Dennis just hated that. His captain's name was Lieutenant Barry. He's not alive anymore. But Captain Barry didn't take to Dennis much at all to start with, putting him up with all them kind of trouble he got into. So it was like he had it in for Dennis, and Dennis hated him. Well, Dennis went out not too much after that, got drunk again, comes back to the ship. We were on the forecastle watching a movie. We were in port at that time, and I think we were in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. But we had the movie going on I was one of the projector operators, and I think I was operating the projector that night. But we were sitting out there in chairs watching this movie on the forecastle. That's a front upper deck just past the gun mounts. Well, Dennis comes aboard the ship, comes up the gangplank. The captain's busy watching the movie. He didn't notice it. But I saw Dennis looking kind of sneaky, like went on around the corner and started up the ladder towards the superstructure. Well, his berthing compartments ain't up there. What the hell's he going up there for? I was wondering. He went into the pilot house. It's the area above where they steer the ship. And it's an area, it's like the top deck, the captain and the officer, and they can stand up there when they're underway and pretty well watch what's going on everywhere. But he went into the pilot house, and the only thing over the pilot house is like a canvas top. Well, in that pilot house area, there's things like binoculars, a fancy chair for the captain to sit in, a swivel type chair, a big old nice chair. The captain was always sitting in his chair when we were underway or when he was up there on the bridge. Pilot house is the area below the bridge. They were on the bridge. I'll get it right in a minute. Anyway, it wasn't but about 5 minutes, and I heard Dennis's voice booming down from up on the bridge. "Take that, you SOB!" And I looked up, and everybody watching the movie turned to look, and Dennis was standing out there, had the captain's chair raised up over his head, and he chucked it right in the ocean, well, right in the bay. We weren't out at sea. And when you hear a splash, I looked toward the captain, and the captain's face was livid. He was ticked off no end. Went up there and arrested old Dennis. And naturally, he went to captain's mast again. And I think it was probably more than 2 captain's masts he went to, because it was several times. Like I say, Dennis kind of couldn't control his drinking problem. He got busted down to fireman recruit. It's about as low as you can get, and fined again. And he was lucky, when you retire from the Navy, which Dennis was a career Navy man. when you retire from the Navy, you can retire at your highest rank. Hell, but you're not going to get that paycheck while you're in there if you're busted. So that made Dennis even madder about everything. He was so he get to threatening the captain. And I'm going to kill that SOB when I get out of here. I'm going to go find where he lives and I'm going to kill him. I said, Dennis, you're going to wind up in jail somewhere just as sure as world, busting rocks or something. You better get that crazy ideas out of your head. Dennis was definitely an unforgettable character. He was older than me. I was just fairly young compared to him. He had to be in his late 30s anyway. He'd been in the Navy 16, 17 years. But after he got busted for throwing the captain's chair overboard, he was hard to deal with his drinking. And I'm surprised they didn't send him straight to the brig for some of the stuff he did. So the captain really let him off easy is what he done. But I remember an incident. We were in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And me and one of the other guys, we went down in the area where all the rich tourists go. They have a slummier part of town where all bars and stuff are. You can go and hit the bars over there, but we were down in the area where the big fancy hotels and gambling casinos are, basically just walking down the street. We were going by this open air restaurant under the front of a hotel area, and I see old Dennis in there, and there's tables literally right there near the sidewalk with people sitting there eating their dinner, and you could see the counter over on the other side of where all these people were sitting. It was like a big bar, and I seen Dennis standing in there. Well, he's about drunk and he's leaning on that bar, and I thought, I better just keep on going. But the bartender, manager, somebody in there saw me looking in towards Dennis and motioned for me to come in. So I said, I better go see what it is. I went in and he said, Sailor, do you know this guy? I said, unfortunately, yes, I do. His name is Dennis. He's an electrician on my ship. Will you get him out of here before I have to call the shore patrol on him? He was standing there, got a hold of this waitress's hand and wanted to hold her hand. She couldn't get loose from him. He had a grip on her hand. She said, I'm going to have him arrested if you don't get him out of here. So I talked to him, come on, Dennis, let's go. And he was about pretty well gone. He was drunk. I got him by the arm and guided him out of there. And all he wanted to do was, he didn't want to talk to the girl. He just wanted to stand there and hold hands with her. But I got him on back to the ship. That consisted of the rest of my evening trying to get him back. And sometimes we had to look out for each other. And I didn't mind looking out for him. When he was sober, he was easygoing. You couldn't have no trouble at all with him. But once he got a few drinks, he was mean as a snake. And I don't know, that's enough about Dennis. I could tell you some more stories about him, but you get the idea that sailors can get in trouble and often do. Any of my fellow shipmates from the USS Chicana, if you see this video, I'm sure some of you will remember Dennis, because I sure remember him. This Pwalpar signing off.